Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the last race of this season. In the start is Matt Vigneault from St. John's Prep. Matt now on course. In the start is Cameron Light from Manchester. Time for Matt, 22.35. Aiden Wise in the start from Haverhill. Cameron Light on course. Time for Cameron, 25.95. Henry Aiello from Newburyport in the start. Time for Aiden, 26.01. Elliot McQuaid from Andover in the start. Time for Henry, 36.06. Wilson Magny from Masco in the start. Time for Elliott, 25.00. Ryan Reck from Austin is in the start. Time for Will, 22.61. Chris Bodnar from North Andover is in the start. Time for Ryan, 27.98. Owen Gant in the start for St. John's. Time for Chris, 26.32. Owen Bappy from Manchester in the start. Time for Owen, 21.11. Henry Hartford from Haverhill in the start. Time for Owen, 26.83. Tyler Trebanian from Newburyport in the start. Time for Henry, 22.30. Peter Shaw from Andover in the start. Time for Tyler, 24.66. Owen Palmer from Masco in the start. Time for Peter, 25.97. Dante Filodoro in the start for Austin. Time for Owen, 23.17. Kevin Packett from North Andover in the start. Time for Dante, 25.27. Tim Harmon from St. John's in the start. Time for Kevin Packett, 26.11. Tristan Rogers from Manchester in the start. Time for Tim, 20.65, 20.65. Paul Parachojuk in the start for Haverhill. Time for Tristan, 31.31. Tommy Lynch from Newburyport in the start. Paul Parachojuk, time, 23.10. Sanjay Kim from Andover is in the start. Time for Tommy, 23.46. Will Karen from Masco in the start. Time for Sanjay Kim, 22.95. Dario Filodoro in the start for Austin. Time for Will, 23.30. Luke Ramos from North Andover is in the start.
Yeah! Go, go, go!
Time for Dario, 23.21. Cole Hosmer from St. John's is in the start. Time for Luke Ramos, 23.06. Peter Shaw from Manchester is in the start. Time for Cole Hosmer, 21.43. Adam Payne from Haverhill in the start. Time for Peter Shaw, 32.48. Andrew Long from Newburyport is in the start. Time for Adam Payne, 20.81. 20.81. Teddy Hutchins from Andover is in the start. Time for Andrew Long, 27.77. Andrew Mitchell from Masco is in the start. Time for Teddy Hutchins, 24.22. Luke Bartley from Austin is in the start. Time for Andrew, 22.66. Ryan Radowski from North Andover is in the start.
Let's go! Yeah! There we go!
Time for Luke, 23.96. In the start, waiting to go, is Josh Harmon from St. John's Prep. Josh Harmon now on course. Finnegan Strobe from Manchester is in the start. Time for Josh, 21.43. In the start is Alex Ziza from Haverhill. Graham Smith from Newburyport is in the start. Time for Alex, 26.94. Ryan Swenson from Andover is in the start. Time for Graham, 25.35. Lars Kovamies from Masco is in the start. Time for Ryan, 24.26. David Morrow from Austin in the start. Time for Lars, 23.90. Derek Monahan from North Andover now in the start. Time for David Morrow, 24.41. Rocco Mascarelli in the start for St. John's. Time for Derek, 23.86. Ryan Began from Haverhill in the start. Time for Rocco, 22.45. Nolan Smith for Newburyport in the start. Time for Ryan, 27.45. Gardner Porter from Andover is in the start. Time for Nolan, 24.98, and Bodie DeVellian is in the start for Masco. Time for Gardner, 23.16. Drew Nadrozic from Austin is in the start. Time for Bodie, 23.32. Ollie Litster from North Andover is in the start. Time for Drew, 27.28. Henry Coote from St. John's is in the start. Time for Ollie, 22.74. Sam White from Haverhill is in the start. Time for Henry, 21.54. Sawyer Sperry from Newburyport is in the start. Time for Sam, 29.43. Kyron Ma from Andover in the start. Time for Sawyer, 26.66. Ethan Daly from Masconomet is in the start. Time for Kyron, 37.22. Time for Ethan Daly, 24.79. Narek Benassian from Austin Prep is on course. Will VW from North Andover is in the start. Time for Narek, 26.90. Sam Charette from St. John's Prep is in the start. Time for Will VW, 23.98. David Yang from Haverhill in the start. Time for Sam, 22.15. Beckett Sava from Newburyport is in the start. Time for David Yang, 27.64. Max Reams from Andover is in the start. Time for Beckett Sava, 28.24. Elias Cantor now on the start for Masco. Time for Max, 23.27. Jacob Coons from Austin is in the start. Time for Elias, 24.63. Zach Golden from North Andover is in the start. Time for Jacob, 27.99. Peyton McKee from St. John's Prep is in the start. Time for Zach, 23.36. Austin Yim from Newburyport is in the start. Time for Peyton, 22.24. Quentin Cario from Andover is in the start. Time for Austin, 29.13. Aiden Oasis from Masco is in the start. Time for Quinton, 24.29. George Lamarcos from Austin is in the start. Time for Aiden, 24.42. Ibrahim Haroon from North Andover is in the start. Time for George, 29.14. Evan Fisicelli in the start for St. John's. Time for Ibrahim, 25.24. In the start is Rourke Lee from Newburyport. Time for Evan, 21.96. John Nees from Andover is in the start. Time for Rourke Lee, 33.01. Zach Richard in the start for Masconomet. Time for John Nees, 24.62. Nate Jaffe from Austin Prep is in the start.
Oh, wait, sorry. You're right. 10 on.
Time for Zach, 25.35. Colby Muse from North Andover is in the start. Time for Nate, 28.00. Aiden Rogers from St. John's is in the start. Time for Colby, 24.14. Caden Schrauger from Newburyport in the start. Time for Aiden Rogers, 22.48. Ian Cox from Andover is in the start. Time for Caden, 29.51. Colin Dillon from Masco is in the start. Colin Dillon on course up top. Danny Holmes from Austin is in the start. Time for Colin, 24.44. Will Hennessy from North Andover is in the start. Time for Danny, 30.81. Nick Marino from St. John's is in the start. Time for Will, 23.69. Teddy Pierney from Andover is in the start. Time for Nick, 24.54. Connor Brown from Masconomet is in the start. Time for Teddy, 24.72. Connor Brown now on course up top, and Joey Zuccola from Austin Prep is in the start. Time for Connor, 25.62. Will Slayton from North Andover in the start. Time for Joey, 34.94. Andrea Caplo from St. John's is in the start. Time for Will Slayton, 26.14. Noah Chantabone from Andover is in the start. Time for Andrea, 23.18. Calvin Tragathon from Masco is in the start. Time for Noah, 24.95. Dylan Patel from Austin is in the start.
Yeah, I thought, man. You got this time.
Time for Dylan Patel, 32.35. Will Arms from North Andover on course up top, and Alex Flynn from St. John's is in the start.
John.
Time for Will Arms, 26.20. Alexander Riley from Andover is in the start. Time for Alex, 23.89. Anthony Stevens from Masconomet is in the start. Time for Alexander, 26.59. Liam Dean from Austin is in the start. Time for Anthony, 25.19. Ben Polonsky from North Andover in the start. Time for Liam, 32.42. Jack Bowden from St. John's is in the start. Time for Ben, 27.23. Nate Flagg from Andover is in the start. Time for Jack, 23.21. Brandon Reed from Masconomet in the start. Time for Nate, 25.78. Sean Murphy in the start for Austin. In the start is Sean Murphy from Austin Prep. He's now on course up top, and Muhammad Haroon from North Andover is in the start. Time for Sean, 34.15. Time for Muhammad, 26.55. That concludes the varsity race. The JV race will start in 5 minutes. Okay, we're about ready to begin. In the start for St. John's Prep is Luke Elmer. Luke is now on course up top, and Owen McLean from Manchester is in the start.
Okay, get a Manchester 1.
Time for Luke, 23.83. Patrick Alardi from Andover is in the start. Time for Owen, 21.62. Evan Zeltzer from Masconomet is in the start. Time for Patrick, 26.19. Nick Capone from Austin is in the start. Time for Evan, 27.35. Avery Tibbetts from North Andover is in the start.
Hey, Capone! Hey, Capone!
Time for Nick, 40.26. Sam Tucker from St. John's is in the start. Time for Avery, 27.81. Gray West from Manchester in the start. Time for Sam, 23.22. Kyle Haskell from Andover is in the start. Time for Gray, 26.81. Matt Aronson from Masconomet is in the start. Time for Kyle, 26.36. Ryan Sullivan in the start for Austin. Time for Matt, 30.22. Austin Bambury from North Andover in the start. Time for Ryan, 35.89. Tyler Schwarm from St. John's is in the start. Time for Austin, 28.09. Ernest Taylor from Manchester in the start. Time for Tyler, 24.1. Declan Mackow from Andover in the start. Time for Ernie, 28.55. John McQuarrie from Masco in the start. Time for Declan, 35.39. James Graham from Austin is in the start. Time for John, 26.99. Aiden Banbury from North Andover is in the start. Time for James, 39.03. Josh Atkinson in the start for St. John's. Time for Aiden, 28.33. Tucker Williams from Manchester in the start. Time for Josh, 24.58. Matthew Weber from Andover is in the start. Time for Tucker, 29.48. Leo Catulas from Masco is in the start. Time for Matthew, 28.24. Josh Zucchero from Austin in the start. Time for Leo, 28.63. Carson Wong from North Andover in the start. Time for Josh, 44.80. Luke Bannerman from St. John's is in the start.
No, I'm talking to my guy down here.
Luke Bannerman now on course up top. William Cornell from Manchester is in the start. Time for Luke, 26.54. Ty Cox from Andover in the start. Time for Ty Cox, 28.77. Owen Riley from Masco, now on course up top. Artem Liganov from North Andover is in the start.
All right, you get no damage 5.
Time for Owen Riley, 28.98. Andrew Scorzoni from St. John's is in the start. Time for Artem, 31.06. Andrew Cahill from Manchester in the start. Time for Andrew, 25.08. Ruiz Boylan from Andover is in the start. Time for Andrew, 32.07. Baden Cox in the start from Masco. Time for Naois, 30.82. Tom Judson from North Andover is in the start. Time for Baden, 28.11. Nolan Chanda from St. John's is in the start. Time for Tom, 30.92. Ryan DeBenedictis from Andover is in the start. Time for Nolan, 27.58. Jonas Kovamies from Masco is in the start. Time for Ryan, 30.75. Luke Durney from North Andover is in the start. Time for Jonas, 27.56. Nils Everest from St. John's is in the start. Time for Luke, 31.51. Malachi Booty from Andover is in the start. Time for Niels, 27.07. Charles Antonakis from Asconomet is in the start. Time for Malachi, 29.60. Time for Charles Antonakis, 30.45. In the start is Ronan Mullen from St. John's Prep. In the start for Andover is Rowan Naughton. Rowan now on course, and Mike Mihalchuk from Asconomet is in the start. Time for Rowan, 29.27. Tanner Ciano from St. John's is in the start. Time for Mike, 29.66. Ryan Kane from Andover is in the start. Time for Tanner, 28.50. Quinn Dexter from Asconomet is in the start. Time for Ryan, 30.96. Phil Murray from St. John's Prep is in the start. Time for Quinn, 32.50. Armand Chowdhury from Andover is in the start. Time for Phil, 30.19. Charlie Pasanka from Asconomet is in the start. Time for Armand, 36.06. Grant Drinkwater from St. John's is in the start. Time for Charlie, 33.63. Daniel Goldsmith from Andover is in the start. Time for Grant, 28.90. Luke Farrell in the start for St. John's Prep. Time for Daniel, 35.62. Max Rizza from St. John's Prep is in the start. Time for Luke Farrell, 36.64. Cooper Dunnigan from St. John's Prep is in the start. Time for Max Rizza, 26.97. Time for Cooper, 35.50. What bid number? Wait, Matthew.
Okay, very good job up there. Thank you.
That's it? It looks like it. I mean,